Please follow me." The girl's voice trembled, yet it carried an urgency that pierced through the noise of the street. The policeman, broad-shouldered, uniform crisp, eyes hardened by years of dealing with trouble, froze mid-step. Something in her tone cut deeper than any call for help he'd heard before, something that made his breath catch. And then he saw her eyes. They weren't pleading for herself. They were pleading for someone else. Her small hands clutched the edge of his sleeve, and her knuckles were white. She was only 9, maybe 10, her dress a size too big, her hair tangled as if she'd been running for hours. But there was no fear in her gaze, only desperate determination. The officer glanced past her, scanning the street. Shoppers moved around them, some curious, some indifferent. Nobody stopped. Nobody asked. And that was the first thing that made his stomach turn, how easily people could ignore a cry for help. She tugged at him again. "Please, you have to come now." He followed. Her small frame darted between parked cars, slipping into the narrow alley behind the old grocery store. The air there was damp, smelling faintly of rust and rain-soaked cardboard. He could hear his own boots echo against the cracked pavement. Then he saw him, an older man slumped against the wall, uniform jacket draped loosely over frail shoulders. The faded patches told a story the world no longer seemed to care about. He was a veteran. His skin was pale, his breathing shallow, his hand still resting over the worn metal pin to his chest. The officer's jaw tightened. He knew that metal. He knew what it meant. It was awarded only to those who had given everything and survived. But barely. The girl knelt beside the man, her fingers brushing his cheek gently. "He's my grandpa," she whispered, though her voice still shook. He wouldn't let me call an ambulance. He says they've already done enough for him. But I can't let him." She swallowed hard. "I saw your badge. I knew you'd help." The officer's mind spun backward, to the day he'd buried his own father, also a soldier. He remembered the silence at the funeral, the way strangers had walked past without a glance. And now here was this man, someone who had once stood in the line of fire, left to fade in a damp alley. The injustice burned in him. "Stay here," he said quietly. He stepped back into the street and raised his voice, not to shout orders, but to speak words that would cut through the indifference of the crowd. This man wore the uniform for all of us. He stood when it mattered most. And today, we will stand for him. Heads turned. Feet hesitated. One by one, people stopped, walking. A young man set down his shopping bags. An older woman pressed a hand to her chest. And slowly, the silence grew heavy, not with awkwardness, but with respect. 2 men stepped forward to help lift the veteran gently. Someone brought water. Another offered a coat. No one asked for his story. They didn't need to. The way they handled him told him everything. The officer glanced at the girl. She was still holding her grandfather's hand, her eyes wet but her chin high. "You saved him," the officer said softly. "No," she replied, voice barely above a whisper. "You listened." The veteran looked around at the small crowd, his lips parting in a faint smile. "I fought," he murmured. "So this could be the world we live in." The officer met his gaze. "And we'll keep fighting to make sure it is." For a moment, the alley felt brighter. Not because the sun broke through the clouds, but because the weight of respect had finally settled where it belonged. And when the crowd dispersed, the veteran was no longer invisible, because now, everyone who'd been there would remember the day they stopped and followed. Some heroes fight wars. Some fight to keep others alive. And some, like that little girl, fight to make the world notice. If you believe silent courage deserves to be heard, share this story so others can feel it too. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And who is the silent hero in your life? And if you want more stories that honor the battles you'll never see, join this channel, because their stories deserve to live on.